Sometimes in life we get a little heated, and we say things we don't mean to say, and we might go a little far in some of the things and some of the acute accusations that we make. But we know where that comes from. We know Satan's the father of all lies, and he wants us to have contention in our lives. And if he can get contention in the family, then he can make one step closer to breaking up the family. And that's kind of a little bit about what we talked about in this interview. I talked to Garrett and Grace Miller about prayer. Thomas S. Monson had an experience where when he was getting sealed to his wife in the temple, the sealer told him, basically, pray together. If you can pray together, if you can kneel down together and pray, then you can't have those feelings of contention. Praying together will inspire you to alleviate any issues, any contention that you have. And Garrett and Grace illustrated that beautifully. They talk about plenty of experiences that they have had where that rings true for them. We also talked about the triangle of love and the importance of that, especially when it comes to prayer, and how prayer can bring you closer to Christ and closer to each other. So you have Garrett, Grace, Christ, and prayer will bring you closer to Christ, bring you closer to each other. And I think they illustrated that beautifully in not just their lives now, but when they were looking for someone to marry. They're a great couple. I love them. I'm grateful for them. They've helped me out a lot, and I'm very grateful for them for doing this interview with me.
All through growing up, my dad always said, marry a man who loves God more than you. And I always was like, okay, whatever. Why would he love God more than me? Like, it just didn't make sense to me. And then I had some crappy relationships, and I realized they didn't love God enough to want to be really committed to the church and stuff. And when I met Garrett, I realized this is a man who loves God more than me. And that was a big realization for me. And knowing that, like, this, when they do love God more than their spouse, we're willing to put God first and sacrifice. And that way we are working towards being more righteous. And it's just crazy, because the more you love God, just the closer you get to your spouse and to your children. And like, there's just more. I didn't realize you could grow with love, but you can totally grow in loving someone more and more.
I think you start understanding more the nature of God, and the nature of God is to have that help meet that spouse with you to really make everything not necessarily worth it, but to really make things work. You have to have two of you. It can't just be one.
Yeah. And we've noticed with our nighttime prayers we say together, it's so important for us to kneel down together and say prayers. There's so much more power to it instead of just, we say our separate prayers, but that's also because you need to communicate with God personally, but speaking for your family, it's a different but important communication.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of something that we read in that chapter, this chapter actually, and I could be getting this wrong, but we're only commanded to love two things with all our heart. That is God and our spouse. And when we put that together, it, like you said, it makes that powerful connection between all three parties, I suppose.
It was like earlier on in our marriage. I don't remember what we were arguing about. We still have those little insignificant arguments that you don't remember, 10 minutes later, but it's important at the time. But I remember going to bed and I was like, what the heck am I doing? Like, it was one of those times where you feel like you're doing everything and your spouse is like holding you back. And Grace doesn't do that. She wasn't holding me back, but I feel like that's probably a pretty common feeling. You're like, man, I have this direction. I want to do this and it's not working. Anyways, I was praying. I was like, Heavenly Father, I feel like I'm doing 100%. I don't feel like Grace is doing that. And I had it was very chastening. He's like, you're not as great as you think you are. But then also marriage isn't necessarily I'm doing 100%, she's doing 100%. You have to be doing as best you can. And then the other spouse is going to have to make up where you go down. And that's one thing that I've noticed with Grace a lot, especially having little Henry here, is that not only is she working, she's being a mom, which is a full-time job. Now she's working on top of that. And then she's, just making sure the house is clean. She is really good at getting meals ready. And it's like, I'm kind of slacking because I'll do my 8 hours of work every day, but then I come home and I'm tired. And, it's just kind of like picking up the lag wherever it is. And that's what I got from that prayer was, you're not always going to be at the same level. There's going to be a time where you have to pick up a little bit and your spouse might be slowing down. You kind of help them back up. They're going to do the same for you. And that's what I got out of that prayer. And it's something that I've tried to, I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to hold to that and remember that.
When we always have our little fights, I found that I need time alone. Garrett likes to take care of it right then, and I need time to cool down and time to think. And during those times where I think and contemplate what's going on, I usually just send a prayer. And sometimes I'm so angry I don't even think about praying, but I know that the Spirit is still there saying, hey, it's okay, and let go of your pride, because I think that's a hard thing. You got to let go of your pride and say, you know what, I may be right or I may be wrong in this, but it doesn't
Ultimately, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't do to dwell on it, to fight about it that much, especially over little things like I took out the trash last, it's your turn, or something like that.